Christians being persecuted in Turkey and the good news. Listen, Christians are being heavily persecuted in the modern country of Turkey. Today I'm going to share with you three stories, three case studies of three courageous, real Christian couples or people, and the hope that we have in sharing the gospel in this country hostile towards Christian faith and those who proclaim it. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to Reason for Truth. You know, truth comes first, reasons last. We're always constantly learning because we stop learning, especially in the information age. We stop teaching, or at least stop teaching well. In an article titled Christians Banned and Facing Persecution in Turkey by Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF, I found this on the internet. The largest international legal firm in the world, by the way, is protecting Christians internationally. We're learning just how persecuted Christians in Turkey have become. Today I'm going to read from this well-written article, facts on the ground, some testimonial stories, and how you can help turn things around in Turkey and around the world for Christ. Case study number 1. Now let's go on and see what's actually happening. Let's look at Dave and Pam Wilson, U.S. missionary couple. Pam and David Wilson were banned from Turkey after living lawfully there for nearly 4 decades. That's 40 years. Dave arrived in Istanbul in 1980 and took on the leadership of the Bible Correspondence Course, BCC, a ministry begin by operation and mobilization. That's what that stands for. His ministry carried out door-to-door evangelism by passing out gospel tracts and invitations to Bible studies. Pam moved to Ankara in 1984 with a church planting team after having felt a call from God to go to Turkey a year prior. Now, Dave and Pam met in 1986 and married in 1988. After getting married, they continued to minister to those in Turkey. Throughout the years, they faced several attempts at deportation as the authorities targeting them for their missionary activity. But with the help of legal intervention, they were able to remain in the country legally by obtaining necessary visa and residence permits. But in early February 2019, however, Dave and Pam left Turkey to spend the Christmas holidays with family in the U.S. When they turned to Turkey, they were told that at the Istanbul airport that they had gotten their deportation orders and entry bans imposed on them. 2 weeks later, one of their team members received the same entry ban, and became clear that Dave and Pam's ban was more than just an isolated incident. Soon thereafter, Dave, Pam, and 2 of their team members learned that an additional code called G87, a designation generally only assigned to terrorists, had been issued on them. July 13th, 2021, ADF International filed an ECHR application against Turkey on behalf of the Wilsons. Their case is pending, by the way, before Europe's High Court. Case study number 2, in 2009, British couple Rachel and Mari Zalma, pseudonyms, by the way, that's not their real names, moved to Istanbul to support a new Christian church community. They invested significant time in learning the language, the history, the customs of the local people. Desiring to bless their neighborhood, their church offered free English classes and parent-child playground. Donations from their annual Christmas fair went to local charities. And in 2018, the Zalmas heard word of other Christians barred from entering Turkey after returning trips from their home countries. Turkish authorities had begun branding Christians with the N82 security code. A security code, again, as we just discussed, designation intended to label a person as a threat to public order and security. Then in 2019, sometime after the Zalmas attended the family conference of the Association of Turkish Protestant Churches, their stories became a reality for them as well. Before leaving for a trip to UK, Mario was stopped by the police and informed that he had been labeled as an N82 code. They said this, quote, "It was terrible not knowing what would happen to him. I heard the officers whispering that they were probably terrorists." That's what they heard. "I was devastated to experience such mistrust, even though we only wanted to do good for the people there." End of quote. Rachel said she remembers the police let Mario stay in Turkey to challenge the order in court. But in June of 2020, Rachel also received the code. Before the police had a chance to deport them, the Zalmas decided to return to England themselves and take legal action to challenge the code designation. As a result of documents produced during the Zalmas court proceedings, that had come to light that the Zalmas case is not really isolated. Other Christians in attendance at the 2019 Family Conference of the Association of Turkish Protestant Churches had also met the same fate. So maybe they should cancel that, go underground with that. But with the support of Alliance Defending Freedom, this is the good news, ADF International, Rachel and Mario have now brought their cases before the European Court of Human Rights. Okay, David Byle, that's case study number 3. What about David? David Byle, B-Y-L-E, a Christian minister living in Turkey, was forced to leave the country he had called home for 19 years simply because he shared his faith. He and his wife raised up their 5 children in Turkey and had become close-knit members of the community. David faced an unjust deportation decision in 2016, and he challenged the legality of that move in court. Though he had been granted an injunction that allowed him to stay until the decision in the case was delivered, David was unexpectedly taken into custody and interrogated by the police. He therefore left the country, learned that the authorities imposed an N-82 code again on him, effectively banning him from ever returning to the country. Now, the Biles now reside in Germany. In a letter dated May 5th, 2022, the European Court of Human Rights, again, ECTHR, declined to hear David's case. Interesting. And ADF International allied lawyers now seeking to initiate a new case in Turkey to challenge his entry ban as his visa application was rejected once again in 2022. 5 years have passed, by the way, since the imposition of the code. Now, listen, those are 3 cases. They're pretty serious, and there's many others like them. These are just 3 highlighted by the ADF. Alarmingly, there are a growing number of cases, ADF writes. Unfortunately, there is a growing number of similar cases. ADF International has partnered with Turkish lawyers to support over 20 cases currently making their way through the domestic courts, and the clients in these cases have lived in Turkey for significant periods of time, often decades prior to them being banned by the country. So they kind of know what they're about. They're not terrorists. Most of them have deep family ties to Turkey, as their spouses and children were born and raised in the country. And although the codes given to these religious workers are reserved for individuals who pose national security threats, these clients have no criminal records. The government has produced no evidence against them. They are solely targeted by Turkish authorities for following God's call on their lives to minister to the people of Turkey. So what can you do? What can I do? What can we all do? We can make a huge difference by first praying for the Turkish government, praying for the Christians in Turkey and the church, praying for favor with the authorities. They're not hurting anybody. They're doing great things for those people. Pray for the leaders in Turkey that their hearts would be softened and changed, show favor towards Christians in Turkey. Pray for the safety and freedom of missionaries, pastors, and Christians in Turkey. Lastly, you can support ADF, and I think it's at adfinternational.org. I think the domestic is teladf.org, but the right one here for international is adfinternational.org. Check them out, get on board, give them support. Lastly, please allow me to encourage you, with the truth. God is on the throne. He's all powerful. He's all loving. He is the truth. And as such, we should not, cannot, and will not be stopped regarding sharing his word throughout the world. It's a fact that the church is already starting to grow back rapidly, even in Turkey, by the way. Remember with Dr. Geisler, I say all the time, he says Christians are like tea. The hotter the water, the best flavors come out. And that's a great thing. So let's keep on the valiant work as the evangelists, making disciples, teachers, preachers, and servants in Turkey until the gospel flows more freely in light of the true God of the universe. And in the interim, please be in prayer for the Turkish Christians in the church. Now, if you want some theological training, go over to reasonfortruth.org or go to equippedacademy.com. That's where you get some great online courses. Make sure you do a couple things. Share this with your friends. Doesn't take any effort. Look, click on there. Say, hey, check this out. Number 2, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Boom. Well, I'm sorry. Share this and like this. Like is say like. What do you do when you mean? What do you mean when you like something? Well, it means you like it. You like it. Unless you hate it, well, don't like it then. What can I say? So share and like it. Then make sure before you leave, above all things, subscribe. Bam! Grazie Sinistro. It's Italian, Sicilian right hook. Hit the subscribe button. Hit that little bell. That's the main thing. Thanks for tuning in. Keep the faith. Stay strong. I'm your host, Steve Garofalo. This is your Reason for Truth for today.